your violin sounds bad and you have no idea why. There are a few reasons as to why your violin may not sound as great as you may thought. Part of the reason is because of your intonation. You just haven't mastered intonation yet. And the way I like to teach my students intonation is by understanding the fingertip placement and also understanding the resonance of the violin. What is resonance? Resonance is when you get a note correct. For example, third finger on A, which is our D, and you hear that echo that comes out of your violin. That is resonance that we're trying to achieve on the violin. The more resonance you get out of your instrument, the better you'll sound. And there are, of course, different keys that help the violin sound its most resonant. D major being the most resonant, has the most open strings, and also has the most resonant strings. That's why a lot of composers compose violin concertos in the key of D, because it lets the violin ring the most. Second to that is G major. You can hear Bruch's Violin Concerto in G minor, and G major towards the third movement. There are so many different elements to that. And the easiest way to practice resonance is by doing a scale. An octave means that you have 8 notes in one scale. And for example, a D major scale has D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. And it's very easy to do on the violin. So if you have your violin, make sure you are following along. I'm going to do this one more time slowly. We'll do open D, then 1, 2, 3, A, 1, 2, 3. And that is a D major scale, and you are trying to achieve maximum resonance. So what are some of the resonant notes on a D major scale? Well, you have the open D. You can hear that by playing the E. I hope the microphone is catching it a little bit. You can hear a little bit of that E string resonating. F sharp is not so much a resonant note because we don't have an F sharp string. Your G should ring because it's one octave higher than the original G string on your violin. Then open A, that's a resonant note, and then your B. Now the B, for whatever reason, is a resonant note as well, even though it doesn't have a string. You can kind of hear a little bit of that after resonance. There it is. C sharp, not so much. And then D. And that's how you get the resonance. So depending on where you're at in violin playing, in your violin education, fingertip placement, very important. I have many videos on the channel regarding fingertip placement, but that's for another time. Resonance is achieved by how delicately or how much you're pressing into the fingerboard. So really pay attention to, as when you're practicing, you're trying to achieve the maximum resonance, not by pressing too much and not by pressing too little. Let me give you an example. So if you're pressing too much, this is the desired note, for instance. If I press too much, you can hear how the pitch kind of goes up just a little bit. You don't want that. And on the opposite side of the spectrum, you don't want to play your third finger too loosely. You don't want to have too loose of pressure, because otherwise you'll get a harmonic, and that's not the goal that we're trying to have. The goal is to get a nice resonant sound. Really listen for each sounding note, and then you can actually achieve that third finger resonance on the D, A, and E string. The G string on the violin you cannot do because we do not have a C string. Violists can. Violists, when they put a third finger on their G, they will have a resonance coming out of the viola because of that C string. But nonetheless, we don't have a C string, so this doesn't apply to us. Oh, hold on a second. Sweet, I just got a gig. Looking to book more gigs and grow your audience? Today's video is brought to you by Gig Salad. Whether you perform solo as part of a string quartet or with a band, Gig Salad makes it easy for violinists to connect with event planners across the US and Canada for weddings, birthday parties, corporate events, and more. With Gig Salad's strong Google presence, you get better exposure to planners searching for your talent, and the full service platform lets you set availability and preferences to get only the leads you want and makes messaging, quoting, and booking a breeze. Best of all, clients pay up front, so your money is guaranteed every time. So head over to gigsalad.com to create your free profile now and take the first step to booking more shows. That's gigsalad.com, and let them know that Eric Mugala Violin sent you. I like the ease of use of Gig Salad, so please make sure to hit the link down in the YouTube description below for you to learn more about Gig Salad. So make sure that your fingertips are really solidly placed on the fingerboard. Another reason why you might be experiencing intonation issues is because of the right hand. We oftentimes think of intonation issues as a left hand problem, but occasionally, every once in a blue moon, it could be a right hand issue. So when you're playing a third finger, which is supposed to be a resonant note, when you play it slowly with your bow, with a straight bow, that's the key here, with a straight bow, you have nice resonance. However, you can hear how the bow slips and slides around the string. We don't want to do that, and we try to avoid that at all costs unless the composer asks you to do it. And that is a very advanced level technique that if you do it with control, that you can get a certain effect. For example, this is ponticello on the violin, which means that the bow is closest to the bridge. And you get that type of sound. Sous la touche over here, over the fingerboard, that's French for over the fingerboard. And if you do it too quickly, you can hear how the intonation goes slightly up as you do that. So, but we don't want that. We want a nice, solid sound, nice core to the sound, meaning that there's a little bit of a foundational element to the note. So I like to think of intonation and each note as like an equalizer in a way. So back in the day when we had cars where you were able to adjust the bass and the mid and the treble, long time ago, you can actually adjust that. And I think of a note in that light. So you have a little bit more bass to your note when you're trying to achieve the note. You'll instantly feel it when your violin is right near your collarbone and your neck. You'll feel it right away, and you'll know when that note happens. So that third finger, you can hear that there's an element of roundness to the sound. So, and if I'm playing a scale, everything sounds really clear and there's a roundness to the note. If I'm playing with ponticello, I'm playing the notes, but they're not really clear. And if I'm playing them over the fingerboard, then that's also an issue. And if you're struggling with sound and if you're struggling with intonation particularly, that's going to affect you. And also the most overlooked thing about intonation, it could be an equipment issue. It could be because your violin's out of tune. It could be you just don't have enough rosin on your violin bow. That could pretty much happen. But there are also some other things that can help you with your intonation. Your posture can help with your intonation. That's one thing we haven't discussed yet. I just mentioned equipment, making sure that your posture over here is nice and high, but also your wrist is straight. We want that to be very solid when we are playing our violin. We never want to hold our violins this way because we'll play mostly on our finger pads and it's going to sound really out of tune. So when you're playing and practicing intonation at home, do it slowly, slow and steady. When you practice slow, you forget slow, especially if you are a beginner when you're trying to absorb the new information you're giving to your body and your brain. So when you are trying to play, just pay attention to how your fingers, particularly every hand frame and every finger pad and every finger length is different. So you'll have to decide with yourself or with your teacher if you're working with one on how to really place those effectively. So you're playing nice solid foundation on the fingerboard onto the string. And then you shouldn't have as many problems as you once did before this video. And if we're meeting for the first time, thanks so much for watching the video. My name is Eric and I am dedicated to helping you become a better violinist. If you like this video, hit the like button. And if you want to share it with a friend or with your teacher, hit the share button. And if you want to be a member of this community, hit the subscribe button so that way you get notifications for when new videos come out. It's because of people like you that help me produce more violin tutorials for you. And if you're interested in learning more about the channel, I recommend you taking some videos right over here and right over here.